Welcome. Tonight we have a very exciting evening talking about money with Heather Mitchell, the holistic money mentor. Heather takes people on the colossal journey into their world of money and merges the emotional and spiritual aspects of money as well, which is like very interesting for us to hear about, given that money is such a hot topic, isn't it? Thanks for joining us, Heather.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Caroline.
Oh, amazing to have you, Heather. I'm so excited about this conversation. I know you have loads to teach us women about money and how we can improve our wellness through money, which is really exciting.
Definitely.
I think it's I feel that it's like just recently it's become very, what's the word? It's almost like we're all starting to wake up and want to be financially responsible and want to really take back our financial power as women. Like I think for women especially, I think there's a really big movement now. Women, they're wanting to learn about money and wanting to learn about investment. And these are skills that just, nobody's fault, but often a lot of women don't really think about how to manage their money and make it work for them. And I think that was something you said to me the other day is making money work for you. And I thought, oh, I've never thought about that before. So I'm excited on this journey.
Absolutely. And I think that's right. I think the whole women thing is something that's really driven me because, I just find I'm really quite cross about the fact that women are statistically less financially literate than men. Like, why would that be? We make up 50% of the workforce, we're out there, why would we be less financially literate? And so it's kind of become my mission to just kind of at least bring it up to par. But even so, I mean, generally speaking, people are generally not very financially literate. It's quite sad when you just think of the statistics, like 28% of people are considered financially healthy. So, if you just think about that, there's a pandemic of, people not being happy about their wealth, their financial position, and that will permeate into their whole life. It will destroy all the well-being in their life because obviously money is a big constituent of well-being. So if you can't get the money right, then it will actually affect all the other aspects of your life as well.
Yeah, and also, Heather, it's also what you're modeling to your daughters as well, because we talk a lot about that here as well, what we're passing on to the next generation, and we can only learn from what we've seen, so it's like there's a lot of belief systems that we were born into that have an effect on us and our beliefs around money, especially for women. And I'd love to know, what are those kind of blockages and the belief systems that you think that are stopping women in particular from coming up to that, really feeling financially secure in themselves, and being okay with that. Love to hear what you've been finding through your practice.
Yeah, no, it's a fascinating topic. It really is, and just really understanding what people's money stories is, because they started from birth, right the way, all our childhood, especially up to the age of 7, we're just so receptive to everything that's being said, all the stories that happen to our relatives and people that our parents know, the way they talk about money, because I think very quickly on, children understand that money is quite an important thing. And so their radars are out to listen out for, what's going on and trying to understand how it all works. And if everyone's arguing about money, if money's tough, if they're, you can't have these toys or whatever, that it really goes deep. It causes a degree of trauma, at that early age. And so, you will go along with that. You will grow up with that kind of feeling all the way through your life. You just take it with you. You learn it at that age and it just stays with you. And so when you're an adult and something similar comes up, you go right back to that childhood memory. It triggers you so fundamentally. And so it's incredible. And so you're kind of operating under the kind of programming of a 5-year-old potentially, and not even that, but there's also the ancestral stuff that's coming through. So all of that, all the cellular stuff, things that come through from, what parents are taught, and they taught us, and so on and so forth. It's all coming through. And that is another issue. Now, I had a client who had a whole series of women, none of whom worked. And so she had a real degree of guilt around that actually working and earning money, because none of her relatives had ever done that before. And so, you know, it's amazing the kind of influences that are affecting your very everyday life. And also you were asking about what sort of things people say. I mean, it's just all those sayings, you know, oh, money doesn't grow on trees, you know, and, you know, money's bad, and, you know, rich people are evil and they corrupt you, and those things, you know, they are going to influence how you actually sort of operate and are around money, and you build a relationship with money. And that's so interesting. Like, everyone has a relationship with money, they just don't realize it, you know. And why wouldn't we? I mean, we deal with money every single day, and so we are going to build some sort of relationship with it. It's just, you know, is it a good one, is it not a good one? Most people wouldn't even think of it that way. So it's really important to understand that and get to the bottom of that, because that is the fundamental to everything.
That's amazing, because even like I find, even if you were to say, people listening in, if you were to even say the word money, you know, and listen to your body, and what happens? You know, what's the, you know, do you get a tightness? Where do you get the tightness? And where, you know, what's that saying to you? You know, that kind of way, because it's a neutral word, but like within that feeling, you can, is revealed a lot, isn't it? You know, like you're, you know, it might be something from your past, or is there a fear, like you have to clench in, like you have to hold on to it and you can't share it? Or, you know, do you feel like you give it away? You just give it away the minute you get it, you give it to other people, you know, that kind of way? Or do you feel like it's, there's, you know, some people believe as well, there's not enough for everybody. There's never enough. There's never enough. Where there's always enough, you know, that there's always plenty for everyone to go around. It's like this abundance of wealth that could be shared. And the more that, and I love what you said about like the cultural conditioning as well, because definitely, you know, even with religion in Ireland as well, there's a huge issue around money and around like feeling like that you should be kind of keep yourself humble as such, you know, kind of way. And then it's like, yeah, because like the idea of rich people were the ones in power, you know, that kind of way, and that they were, you know, I suppose dominating over people, you know, that kind of thing. So it's, there's a huge belief system there that needs to be broken down as well, that actually if you're to become wealthy, that you can share and you can do amazing things in the world, and you can actually create, you know, beautiful initiatives that will help other people, you know, the way that the belief system just needs to be untangled, I think, you know. So it's amazing to open up the conversation about that, you know.
Well, exactly, because it isn't money's fault, you know, it's just people's fault. And they're the ones that have those particular people were just bad people, and they were just bad people with money. So it's not money's fault about it. It's just, you know, they were just irresponsible. But if it's put in a good person's hands, then of course they'll be doing really good things with it, you know. And there was this saying from Margaret Thatcher that said, well, the Good Samaritan was only the Good Samaritan because he had means, you know, he didn't just have good thoughts, you know, he was actually forking out, so you had to have the means to do it. So it's it's not money's fault. It's just how we're taught about it is our programming that's at fault there. So
it's so interesting, because it really impacts, like some of the things I've learned around it is how intrinsically related it is to self-value and trust. Like my capacity to trust myself and trust the universe influences the abundance that I feel and that I have in my life. And also that the whole, like the fear of financial security is, I think, is one of the biggest things, because like you said, it's not the money, it's the fear of financial insecurity. And with my clients, I notice that money is the one thing that holds people back every single time. If they need to leave a relationship, if they need to leave a job, if they need to really change their life, it's always, I don't have enough money, or it's the fear of not having enough money, or the fear of, you know, they won't leave a job that is creating, like driving them to want to commit suicide. They will not leave that job because they're frightened of not having money. And so it really, we give it so much of our power in a way, isn't it? It's like our personal power that we are investing in money. That's where we're placing our security.
That's it. It's so fundamental. It's just like, again, it just goes so deep, and yeah, we've put it too much on a pedestal. I think if we believed in ourselves, if we believed that we could do it, then of course you know, we could do anything. It doesn't, you know, you don't have to stay in a bad relationship, you don't have to stay in a bad job, because we would know that A, it's abundant, and B, we have the capacity to get as much money as we want. But because there's this kind of endemic of self-doubt, you know, 80% of people believe they're not enough. You know, if they don't believe they're enough, then that everything starts from there. Everything permeates from that belief system. So if they don't believe they're enough, well, of course, they're going to manifest lack. It's just natural. So the first step is to really work on oneself. So it's like working on, you know, the perception of money and working on the perception of yourself. And if you get those two pieces right, you are, you know, streets away from like everybody else, because, you know, there's so many people have this issue with it. It's so endemic.
It's amazing. And I know on your website you have an amazing video, just watching it there, Heather, and you were talking about the secrets to creating a wealthy life. If you want to give people some tips about that, and that'd be amazing. What you have found, like just some tips that people could, you know, start to practice.
Yeah, sure. Well, one of the things like about the not enoughness. So just a really quick tip, because, you know, it really is a problem, but, you know, it's like reminding yourself. You need to remind yourself all the time that you are enough. So one tip that's really effective is just write on the mirror, so in pen or in lipstick, I am enough. You know, so every time you look in that mirror, you are reminded that, yeah, you are worthy of it. You know, and you can put any kind of variation of that, you know, whatever kind of resonates with you. But it just, if you've got that feeling that, yes, I can do this, I can, you know, go out in the world and achieve whatever I need to achieve, then, you know, then you're taking your power back, you know. So that's really important. Yeah.
Amazing. And actually, I'm just thinking about my mother. Actually, she passed away recently, but it's funny how she was actually never had the emphasis on us in school, or she never put the emphasis on us in our achievements. She always put the emphasis on our self-belief, you know, the kind of way. She always felt like, she always kept telling us that we could do whatever we wanted to do, and there was nothing, no matter where we grew up or what we did, that she believed in us, you know. So powerful, actually, because like I actually grew up then thinking money was, it was all easy. It's easy to do this, easy to do that, because it was like the emphasis wasn't on, even if I didn't get the best grades, or I wasn't in the best, you know, I mean, I wasn't an overachiever or anything like that, but I always pushed my way through everything, because I just felt like if I wanted to do something, I just could do it. But I'd have to be able to put the work in as well, you know. So your skills, like, and how to implement that, Heather, is that the next stage?
It is, yeah. And I'm just going to say, your mum gave you such a great gift, you know, because so much of this has to be unlearned. So if you got it the first time round, how amazing is that?
The power of mothering.
Yeah, I mean, God goodness, that is amazing. Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, it's very interesting, but, you know, investing and all of that stuff is just another skill, you know, and a lot of people have blockages there. They just think that's in the too hard basket. I can't do this. I'm not even going to go there. So they just cut off a whole set of possibilities. You know, it's just not even accessible to them. So it's just a case of, well, you know, you want to learn how to play the piano, you get a teacher, you know, it's as simple as that, you know. So why not money also, you know? So client, you know, some of the clients that said that, it's just like, why didn't I think of that before? I just learn about it, and there you go, I can do it. So it's just, yes, it's absolutely learnable, and it's actually much easier than you think. You know, that's the interesting part, is that I think the financial industry likes to make out that it's really complicated. You know, they've got all this technical jargon and all these algorithms and things, and they want them to think that, because obviously they want to be given all the business. So of course they say it's difficult, but actually, you know, they really, it's not hard, and they're not even that great, you know, because nobody cares about your money more than you do. So it's in your interest to be empowered and learn how to do it yourself. But also all these top traders and things, they can't even beat the average. You know, Warren Buffett did a bet with all these traders, and none of them, like, they bet them $1 million that they couldn't beat the average, and none of them did, not one of them. So yeah, so it's amazing, you know. So it's in, you know, just learn about it. It's not complicated, and it's about just dipping your toe in and just learning and getting a sort of cellular memory, and just, you know, every step by step, you'll build on it, and it's amazing.
It's amazing.
How do you recommend when you're going to, so like I'm just thinking to myself, well, I think about my money, my journey with money, when I go back and I look at my story with money and the narrative that I've had, because in the last year and a half, I've done massive amounts of work around money, my relationship with money, but seeing all the different stories, and if you're leading someone through that, like, is that a powerful activity to do, to actually go back and think about the stories that you got told, and like looking at your life and maybe mapping out a timeline? Or do you have a suggestion to actually, when you're identifying some of these beliefs, like how to actually start to shift them?
Yeah, well, the first thing is just the clarity. So you just understanding what actually is going on. So yeah, we go back, ask lots of detailed questions, you know, to really get underneath and understand what's going on with all of what's happened in the past, all that's what happened in the ancestry. And so the first step is just to get clarity. And as an aside, I also do couples counselling, which is also very interesting, because there's like now 2 sets of money stories coming together, and having that clarity and compassion of your partner's money story, because they, you know, I just finished one recently, and the feedback was, you know, I didn't even know my partner's money story. I didn't even know half of what they told me. So it's just suddenly you've got that clarity. And then once you've got the clarity, that instantly makes you feel better. But then also, you know, the first time round, it was all accidental. You didn't know you were being programmed. So it just, whatever happened. But this time round, you can actually do it consciously. So you can actually say, well, what do I want to feel about money? So you can create a new relationship. Yeah. It's really powerful.
Your story is not your story, right? Like, I've just been so aware of how my relationship was my mum's relationship, was my grandparents' relationship. And like, when you see it, you know, and we actually had this funny episode in the car the other night. My mum and my daughter and I all realized, my mum said something like, I love looking at my money in the bank. And my daughter popped up and goes, I love looking at my money in my bank. I thought, oh my God, I love it too. Oh, yeah, it's hilarious. You know, the 3 of us had this thing, you know, like, it was just so funny.
It's like, I love feeling secure. Is that it? You know, I love looking to see that. Yeah.
Well, I think it is. I think for me, the conscious, I'm conscious of that, but I know from my mum and her generation, that is the security, and it's very important. And if it's not there, then there's a lot that's at stake, you know. So there's a lot of choices that she makes based on that program. So it's really good to be clear and conscious of those things, you know.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? And I love the way it played out. You know, that's exactly,
so funny.
that symbolizes exactly what it is. It's you know, generations just do the same things, you know, and you just think, you think you're the first one, and it's just like, no.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I'm just thinking to myself, you know, there's also that where you have to be aware of not to be, you know, to be able to be bought either, you know. So giving yourself away to a job or to something that money is just going to be the outcome, you know. So like, how can you keep your integrity around money as well, and being true to yourself, and to say no to things when it might be very attractive, when there's a huge big, you know, lucrative, I suppose, carrot at the end of the, you know, being dangled at you. But if you feel that it's not true to what you feel is right for you, to have the security or yourself around money, to be able to say no to that as well, that's kind of an interesting thing to look at.
It is. And interestingly, at the weekend I saw the new Elvis film, and it's so interesting because that's exactly what happened to him. You know, his manager just kept dangling these new opportunities in front of him, and even though he didn't want to do them, he just didn't have the power to say no. And so he was just constantly kind of bullied, it was financial bullying that he was encountering, and he always wanted to travel the world. He never got to.
Wow.
And it was just like, oh my God, that's exactly it. Even him, who achieved the incredible success, was still in his poverty mindset. He never lost that poverty mindset.
And then a lot of people feeding off him and making money off his creativity. You have to be careful, really careful. I found that in my journey, because I'm very creative. And the minute you kind of go into other people see that all the time, and they want to get a piece of that, so they kind of try to nearly, profit off you. So I've had that all the way along. So you have to be very discerning about that, and be very careful about who you're, have your own value as such, because to know that you can make money, but you want to be in control of where your talents are really and your gifts are what creates that wealth and abundance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, it's that self-worth again, isn't it? Because then you kind of just go, no, I'm not going to do that, and then you make sure that you're paid what you're worthy of, and all of those things, that exchange of value, it's all part and parcel of it, So when you change your beliefs about yourself, it isn't just about this sort of small area of like what's in your bank account. It just permeates into your whole life, because you just are out in the world as a new, much more kind of empowered and brave and courageous person.
It's so important though, Heather, isn't, to learn those skills, because you can see at different levels, how it'll creep in. Even if you're hugely successful, you can still have that, like you said, the poverty mindset, that you can still feel like you're never enough, or you'll never have enough, even though there's millions in the bank. You see that with huge billionaires and stuff as well, so they can't share their wealth. That's why just 2% of the population have all the wealth, and the rest, So that's a huge issue, and it's a huge incentive for people to become, conscious wealth creators, I guess, so they can share, be, I suppose, share and create initiatives that can make huge change, because it's not being done in certain areas, So I think that's a great motivator,
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And it's funny, it's like even someone like Robbie Williams. I mean, it's the same story, just keeps playing out all the time. But yeah, he was also just, it was all about trying to impress his father, but he got to the very top, and he still wasn't happy. So it was like, well, where do you go from there? It's obviously not about money or success. It's so it's suddenly having to deal with his own sort of stuff.
It can be so subtle, can't it? Like the patterns, so subtle. And one of the things that I noticed was how, I've noticed with women, it's like this needing to enable their partners, like enable their man and support their man, and not actually. It's almost like they might earn it, but they earn the money, but they sort of need to keep, supporting the man or giving it to the man. And I've seen that a lot with my clients, and it's like this, and even that the programming of not being able to hold it, like actually it's mine, and I can hold on to this. I don't have to give it away to be loved or to buy love. I suppose that's the underlying thing. It's the buying of love, So it's just such a fascinating journey when you start to really look into the programming underneath it all, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is so fascinating, just what makes people tick. Like, why do they push money away? Like, what is that about? So it just, because if you ask anyone if they want more money, of course they're going to say yes. So isn't it interesting that their bells are saying yes, but their subconscious is, has a whole different sort of set of, ideas, and it's just like going, oh no, we're just going to push this money away. You sort of take it in with one hand and push it out in another, and it's just like, you might stand in your own way. Like I've done that so many times, it's untrue, and you just think, well, why did I do that? Why didn't I take that opportunity? It's just like there's that little voice inside you that is just holding you back all the time. So you've just got to, hold on to that voice and just kind of talk to it and say, why? What is this about? Because otherwise, originally I was going to just teach people how to invest, and that was the original kind of intention. But I quickly realized that if we don't deal with the fundamentals, if we don't deal with the kind of all the emotional side, then what's the point? Because they're only going to push it away again. So you've got to get that piece right. And the other thing that I also do is to take all the universal energies and get them on side. I think that's really important as well. So, there's so many kind of indigenous and traditional kind of, practices that you can do to enhance all the universal energies. And, and it's not woo-woo, because now even quantum physics is kind of backing it all up. But just, so it's all going on. So we might as well get it working for us rather than against us. So we sort of, big piece is to get those pieces in place before we go into the kind of more step-by-step and sort of rudimentary stuff to do with actual money itself. Yeah.
Can you expand a little bit on that, like the universal laws? And because you went from universal laws to indigenous, like I probably wouldn't have connected those. So I'd love to hear a little bit more, if you can share a little bit more on that. I'm just really curious about that.
Yes, of course. Well, there's just so many things like ancient Chinese, there's feng shui, which is so powerful. And the way I see feng shui is, it's like the way you arrange all the things in your home. But I see it as a kind of microcosm of astrology. So you've got all the planets and stars that are having an effect on you from the heavens, but then you've got this kind of smaller version of that, and how the energy is going around the home, and how it affects you. So different things in different places is going to bounce the energy off, or it might come in too fast. You've just got to kind of modulate it and make sure that it comes in at the right speed. There's all these kind of things that you can do to sort of maximize the wealth and maximize a happy life. There's lots and lots of things just in feng shui. There's also Hawaiian law, which is Ho'oponopono, which is really, really powerful. So there's just loads and loads of things, and there's 12 universal laws. And then there's quantum physics itself. So there's that. So you can sort of layer upon layer of things that are all having an effect. And so it's kind of just making sure I try and think of money from a holistic perspective, from the widest possible things perspective, all at the same time. So it just, if you do everything, then it just ups your chances of being successful and just makes it more of an ease and flow.
I love that. I love the fact that you see it like a flow, because we're always talking about it here as well. I was talking about creativity as flowing, we always want to get it flowing. And it's like the same when I hear you say that, it feels like money is like that as well. It's like energy, you just need it to flow. And like, if it's a river, what's in the way, or what's weighing you down in the river that you can't flow along with it, kind of thing. What's stopping you from actually being in that stream as such, and I love the idea of, because I hadn't thought of that, and I have heard, obviously, because I'm a designer as well, next year have lectured interior design as well as design communications, but when they're talking about feng shui and just how the well-being and the arrangement of your environment, and how environment can have an effect on how you feel about yourself, but also the energies and everything. It has a huge effect as well, doesn't it?
It really does. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And when you're talking about energies, because everything is energy. Yeah. And the way we look at money is not necessarily money for money's sake. It's money for holistic well-being, because money creates a well person, a well home, a well family. So it's important that you get equilibrium across your whole life. So it's not just about the money piece. It's also about your physical well-being, your mindset and mental health. It's about your connections to the universe, to the earth, to your purpose, and it's about money and it's about time. So it's all those different things have to be balanced, because if any of them are out of balance, it's going to tip everything else out of balance. And there's also balance within each as well. So because obviously if with money, if you're too miserly, that's not good. You're spending everything, that's not good either. So there's kind of equilibrium there too. So yeah, it's always important to just kind of address your whole life and make sure that you're kind of, feeling a well person. And that's kind of the ultimate, really, is just to get that kind of balance.
I think that flow is really interesting. Like I had this realization a while ago that the way I was thinking about money was, like someone paid me money. And then I thought, why am I thinking about it like that? It's like, this is the flow of energy. And this is like thinking about it. It comes from the source. It comes from this source of divine intelligence. And
Right.
if I see it like that, I felt so much more flow, and that was the flow that because I was giving its power or its control to other people or to other things, then I wasn't really tapping into that flow. But as soon as I did that little shift, like, I found that was really significant for me, like, just to think of it like that. So that the little things, right? You could actually really sit and talk about this for ages, like all these little things that we've discovered, right? But Heather, tell me one of the biggest aha moments, either for you or maybe someone you've worked with, like something that really blew your mind when you discovered it, a belief, if you can think of. This is probably really putting you on the spot, but if there's something that you can think of that was like really, wow, like that was a really huge realization around money, or when you've seen someone work through a huge realization. Do you think of anything?
Yeah. So I had a client who we looked at her spend patterns, and it was just like she was spending thousands and thousands of dollars on clothes. It was like, whoa, what's happening here? And when we dug deeper, it turned out that her father was pretty abusive, but he was only nice to her mother and her when they were looking pretty and wearing nice clothes. So it just made her like truly obsessed with just looking nice, and it just was totally out of balance. And
Wow.
so suddenly it's like all of a sudden she kind of realized what was happening, and she no longer needed those things. It was just like suddenly it was this transformed kind of attitude to clothes and everything. And then it was amazing because then she could go shopping in her closet because she never has to buy another outfit again in her life.
So saved yourself a fortune. That's quite a common pattern. I've seen that. I've talked about this before. I don't know if I said to you, Lisa, but like I know, like especially my mum's here, my aunts, and the obsession with clothes, like the obsession with constantly buying clothes, but it's also back to kind of, when you look at women in society, that before the only way they'd get power is if they kind of married well, and if they were married well, they'd have to look a certain way and have a certain appearance as such. So like the overemphasis on how they looked as well, just because at that time they wouldn't have had the opportunities that we have now. So the looks and the appearance and clothes and all that, spending money on themselves like that become like that imbalanced, But when you not realize that it can become like an addiction, and like you say, starting to get you really kind of become a huge problem in your life when it comes to money. Like, and you see, do women come to you like that, like where they have really got to rock bottom when it comes to their financial state of affairs?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the thing, it's like they've lost their power, so they need to find ways of getting it back. So absolutely, it's and it doesn't take much. I think some of these things are just small mindset shifts that actually can make some major differences. So and we look at spend patterns. It's amazing that you can actually see so much of someone's kind of priorities just by looking at their spreadsheets, just looking at how they spend. It's amazing. They can tell me all they like, but when I look at their data, that speaks volumes. And so there's lots of savings to be made there, just things that don't resonate with them, they don't need anymore. All those things can really help to sort of just release them from things that are just holding them back, I guess. Yeah.
So I was just going to say, because we'd love to encourage more and more women to take up their financial power and really step into complete financial independence if they haven't yet, and to be able to learn those skills. So what sort of advice, like if you could think of, a few hot tips that would be really amazing for women that are just starting on this journey, that would be really helpful for them to start to take back their power around money?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think a key sort of foundational thing is to, if there's any way that any spend can be reduced, and instead of that spend to actually buy an asset with it, I mean, that is just like an amazingly powerful thing. But if they can learn to build an asset with some of that money, just a little bit of it, then that's that's a wealthy habit.
Yeah.
Because that means that asset is then going to pay them. So you start shifting it from you working for money to money working for you. And so, you can sort of take that to the nth degree, but that's the sort of starting point to having a wealthy life, where you don't have to work for every penny. And, then, the ultimate end result of that is that all those assets that you're buying is actually paying for your lifestyle, which leaves you to work for joy, not necessity. And that's when you're living life on the fast track. So that's kind of where we sort of aim towards.
Wow, that's amazing. When you say asset, what do you mean by that? If you could
An
expand
asset,
on
so something that will pay you. So it could be a property, or it could be shares. It could be anything that gives you a regular payment or goes up in value. So yeah, that's
even
the
just doing that. Like when you said that, I could just, because I don't do that, right? That's like my next step. So I'm empowering myself financially at the moment.
We're learning.
Very excited about it. So even just thinking of that, even just thinking, wow, I'm going to take some of my money and even just buy a few shares, all of a sudden my thinking is now going from my money is working for me. And even if I got paid 5 cents, it wouldn't matter. It's the fact that I'm taking that action. I can see how that totally shifts the way I stand in relationship to money. So yeah, I can feel the difference in that.
Yeah, that's it. So it's only minor mental shifts that are required, but just if you add them all together, it has major implications to your existence.
Yeah. And even stepping into it, I love like what you're doing, Heather. It's so amazing, because it's like it can be very scary for people, can't it? Like even the topic, because it's like that. We don't want to look like we were talking about the other day about the dark sunglasses. Sometimes we just don't want to see them. We have the rose tinted glasses on and we just don't want to look. We just don't want to look. We just keep going the way we're going and like la 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 la. But actually then it's we have to take off the glasses and we have to look and see like what is the situation, because a lot of it's just that fear. And it's amazing that you're kind of bringing people, showing them, but taking them by the hand nearly and like supporting them in that, and like saying, don't be scared, it'll be okay, we can work through this. Different things that we can do. And it's like, if you start to look at excuse me, the patterns and the beliefs and how you can redesign your life around this healthy and wealthy kind of abundant mindset. It's beautiful, because we do talk a lot about I suppose emotional health, and there's physical health and there's mental health, but the financial health is a huge aspect there. I don't think people are, maybe it's another facet that hasn't been highlighted like that, and just when it comes to even our wealth and our health, and how our abundance or that kind of mindset can really affect our physical health, and how the worry of that for women especially, because we have single moms and they have children that they have are dependent on them. I think that's a lot, like Lisa was saying, about the fear of moving on, moving out of relationships, moving jobs, moving into kind of choosing more challenging roles and things like that, because of this kind of mindset that's holding them back. And then also could be causing them anxiety, that's causing the problems in their body, like it's huge, And have you seen women kind of start to flourish more when they've gone through that process on the other side of it, would say?
It's transformational, literally. I mean, it's amazing. Because we start off really deep right away, so you see the transformation from like day one. Wow. So it's just like, whoa, it sort of even takes me by surprise and delight, because they actually do walk out different people by the end of it, and just so empowered. It was awesome. It's really phenomenal how it really does change people's lives. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? This is like a question that sits on my mind, because it's actually something that I've done in the past. I think everyone's going, what's she going to say? What secret is she going to share tonight? Oh my God. So I was raised to you go into a relationship with a person, and then you sort of, if you're in, you're all in. And so you have joint bank accounts and there's nothing separate. And I did that in 2 relationships. And I actually don't necessarily think that that's a healthy thing to do now, after seeing some of the damage that happened in my past relationship. So I'd just like to ask you, like, you've obviously seen a lot of relationships and couples and ways to work. Like, it's really nice to think that you're trusting each other and you have a joint account. But I wonder if that's actually really not the best, like, because it's very black and white. Is there a better way to go about it that might be more empowering for both people while still honouring the connection and the trust in the relationship?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, really. And I think it's important to maintain one's own self. So I think it's important that people have their own personal bank accounts, as well as, I mean, I think it's nice to have, individual ones and also a joint one. So you've kind of got the best of both worlds, and you kind of put it in together. So you've got that pooled money, but at the same time, you've got your independence and just kind of feel empowered because of it. And so, so if you do have an abusive relationship and they are going to start, creaming it and just taking it all out, then at least you've got your own kind of money that's safe, that it is, is better. And even if it isn't that type of relationship, I think it's still important to keep empowered. So personally, I mean, everyone's got a different view on this, and I think that it will also depend on the couple themselves, because people, I think it's probably quite an emotive question, but I still think that having a bit of independence is really important, especially for women, as I said.
I would agree with that too. Now.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I like the idea of just your own bank account and then the joint bank account. I think
that's it. And it's the best of both
balance.
You can sort of put in, and it just seems fairer that way.
Yeah, because then both have their own individual independence, and then they're kind of interdependent, then both being brought together. I like that.
I mean, it's the same in, you would have your own friends, just, it's a bit like, having an unhealthy relationship just generally, you'd want to be able to, you come together in a relationship, 2 independent people that come together, rather than trying to, lean on each other and rely on each other. That is just that sort of more healthy kind of environment. So the bank account would reflect that.
Yeah. That's amazing. Actually, I love that idea of just even like what it reveals within your relationships, isn't it? When you look to see what the relationship with your partner is with money as well. Like, it can be very revealing, and I'm sure you see that as well, Heather.
Oh, it is. It's so fascinating, and just seeing how different behaviours butt up together. So if, one partner is a spender and the other one's a saver, that is just totally irritating, both ways, and it can just, so, it's frustrating because they're in their own home, but they're feeling triggered, but they don't quite know why, but they just feel like, oh, I just don't like this. And it's triggering them really deep. It goes back, to whenever they felt vulnerable. And so, if they don't really understand what's going on, it's just a constant kind of feeling of just ickiness. But if there's that understanding of like, oh, well, that's what's going on, and both parties know, then it's just, a whole different ball game, and something could be done about it. They could be a bit more sensitive about the way they speak about it, or, it's just a game changer.
Heather, I noticed in your bio that you mentioned that you do a group, like was it a monthly group strategy or something, or a support system?
Yes, it's the Foundations of Financial Freedom. So it's 7 weeks for women and it's 9 weeks for couples. So we go through step by step all the different things. It's like almost an end-to-end process. So, from the spiritual and esoteric all the way down to the practical aspects of building a portfolio. We do trading, and so really
amazing
journey.
Wow, that's so amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. And just, really kind of giving people the kind of understanding, because I think if people see the trading platform for the first time, it can be like, oh, what do I do? What do I press? And you don't want to do the wrong thing. So just knowing which buttons to press and what to take into account, it's just, you know, it's so, it just hand holding. It just kind of makes people feel better about it. You don't have to do it a couple of times, and it's like, oh, I know what to do. It's fine.
That sounds very exciting. I like to say I've never done that.
I'd actually like to get my daughter into that. I think that her and I, because she's got an abundance consciousness, right? I've seen her say, I'd like to earn some more money. And next thing, knock, knock, knock.
Yeah.
Lady downstairs comes and says, oh, I forgot to pay you for the babysitting the other night, and I'll pay you $50 in. And I'm like, how do you know that?
How did you do that?
I know, this is what she does. She just is this manifester of money. So I think it would be amazing if her and I were learning how to make our money work for us at this age. And that would be something that would be a really nice mother-daughter bonding thing too. Like, imagine that. That would be so cool.
That's it. I think, you know, I mean, it's good for any age, of course, but if you learn it when you're young, it has, you know, you get all the benefits. So when the interest is compounding, you know, you get all those benefits to actually compound it. That's when it really has an amazing effect. So yeah, that's awesome. And what a lovely thing to do with a mother and daughter.
I know. I just thought that. I think that maybe we might need to get you into have a mother and daughter retreat and have a special section on mother and daughter investing. All right? Wow. Imagine that.
Brilliant idea. Brilliant idea. And girls and ladies, instead of spending all your money on chocolate, let's put it into stocks. Not chocks.
Wow, that's awesome. Heather, this has been such a great conversation. Is there anything that you would like to leave us with, knowing that we know, like, I don't know, talking for myself, a bit of a virginal audience here when it comes to financial independence and trading and investment? Is there anything words of wisdom you'd like to part with?
I think it's important to know that everyone's empowered. You know, everyone has the power, you know, from a spiritual perspective and a practical perspective. You know, people can actually take matters into their own hands and actually create an abundant life. You know, all the life that they want, they can achieve. It's just taking the bull by the horns and just starting, really, and just, you know, learning a few things. And the world is theirs, really, just the world of their dreams.
Amazing, Heather. That's a gorgeous thing to finish up on. Could you share how people can get in touch with you, and what's the best, you know, even just if they want to start off working with you, what would be the first step they could take?
So the easiest way is to get hold of me via LinkedIn, just Heather.Mitchell, and I can share the rest of my links down below. It's more complicated, so if that's okay, I'll just show you my links.
Perfect. Yeah, that's amazing.
My program. So it's called the Foundations of Financial Freedom.
Yeah, that's awesome. And there is a link to it at the bottom of this post, so you can follow up there as well. Amazing. Heather, thank you. That was amazing. Great. I'm so inspired now. I want to get off and start investing.
Absolutely. And you're so passionate about it, Heather. You can see, like, it's really your purpose, you know, like it's just oozing out of you. You can come from all different angles. Like, it's amazing. It really is. So well done on following your passion and bringing this to the world. So I wish you all the very best. And thank you for coming on.
Thank you. No, I love it. It's like the universe has just conspired to put all the pieces in place to bring me to this very point. So I'm very grateful.
Yeah,
wonderful.
Beautiful.
We are too.
Thank you so much, Heather. Thank you very much. And thank you, everyone, for joining us again tonight.
Yes, thanks, everybody. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Heather.
Everyone.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll see you again next week. Bye.
Bye.